When I walked into the garage and saw the empty space where my father's car had been, I honestly thought it was stolen. Turns out it was just not by a stranger. I'm Blake. I restore classic cars, not for the money, not for the aesthetics, but because it's the only way I know how to hang on to the one decent man I ever looked up to, my father. He died before I turned 30, but he left me his dream, an unrestored 1967 Shelby Cobra. Every nut and bolt I turned on that car felt like I was rebuilding something bigger than steel. It was us, him and me, ghost and son. I spent 18 months bringing that car back to life. My wife, Amanda, never understood it. "Why don't you sell it and put the money towards something useful?" she'd say, sipping her iced matcha like she didn't just suggest selling my actual soul. But I brushed it off. Amanda said a lot of things she didn't mean, or maybe she meant them all. Either way, I had a garage space I rented specifically for the Cobra, just to keep it safe. But safety is a funny thing. Turns out it has nothing to do with locks. When I lost my job and Amanda said we should stay with her mother for a little while, I should have known it wasn't about practicality. It was about control. Her mother Patricia ran that house like a minor dictatorship. And Amanda? She played both sides. Sweet daughter to her face, silent enabler behind closed doors. It was never Amanda's hands doing the damage. Just her permission. It started with small things. Tools rearranged. Boxes moved. Then Patricia accidentally gave away my welding gear during a church garage sale. Amanda rolled her eyes and said I was overreacting. "She's just trying to help you declutter." Declutter. Like my life was a messy closet. But the gut punch didn't come until I walked into the garage one day and found nothing. No Cobra. No dust marks. Just cold concrete and the echo of trust leaving the building. I found Amanda in the kitchen, her phone in one hand, spa brochure in the other. She didn't even look up when she said it. "Oh. My mom found someone to buy the car. 15 grand. Cash. Cash. For a fully restored 1967 Shelby Cobra. A car worth $300,000 on a bad day." She sipped her green tea and said, "Relax, babe. It's just a car." I didn't say a word. Because what do you even say to someone who just sold your father's legacy like it was a used patio set? The next morning, Amanda acted like nothing happened. She was in the kitchen making her usual avocado toast, because God forbid carbs cross our threshold. "I booked the spa for this weekend," she said, still not looking at me. "Thought we could use a little reset." She meant her. I was already too reset for comfort, reset right out of my own garage. "Where's the money?" I asked. She paused, just long enough to confirm what I already knew. "It's going toward the retreat." And I paid off the credit card. Paid off her card, to be exact. The one with the $400 facials and scented candles labeled things like grounded and divine feminine. I was still stuck on how she managed to sell the Cobra in the first place. "She had no right to sell that car," I said. "It was in my name." Amanda tilted her head like I just said something quaint. "You don't get it." She was trying to help. "You've been so stuck since the layoff. Maybe letting go of that thing was the nudge you needed. That thing was all I had left of my father. And now it was chopped into metaphors by a woman who could spend $75 on a body scrub and call it self-care." She smiled. One of those thin, glossy smiles she gave strangers at brunch. Patricia wandered in a few minutes later, wearing her usual expression. Like someone who just tasted spoiled milk but decided to blame the cow. "Morning," she said, reaching past me to grab her vitamin D drops. "I hope Blake isn't still sulking about the vehicle." The vehicle. These women could have taught a graduate seminar in passive aggression. But what really got me wasn't Patricia. It was Amanda. She didn't correct her, didn't defend me, just stayed silent while her mother turned the most personal project of my life into a Craigslist footnote. I left the house without a word, drove aimlessly for an hour, hands clenched so tight on the steering while my knuckles ached. I called the dealership. Some guy named Vince answered. "Yeah," he said. "Took it in 2 days ago." Lady said it was her late husband's car. Late husband. Not father. Not son. Husband. I hung up. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes after that, staring at nothing. That's when I realized something. Amanda hadn't just let her mom sell the car. She helped her do it. I came back that evening and found Amanda on the couch, scrolling through interior design photos like nothing in the world was broken. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, I was thinking, maybe we could redo the second bedroom? Make it more of a creative space for you." A creative space. After selling my actual workspace. That's Amanda for you, solving fires. She lit herself by handing you a scented candle and a vision board. "You lied to the dealer," I said flatly. "You told him the Cobra belonged to your late husband." She blinked. Just once. Then exhaled slowly like I was the child here. "He asked who restored it. I said you did. And then he asked whose it was and I said my husband's. You were my husband." That was her logic. All of it. Condensed into a loophole wide enough to drive betrayal through. "You knew she was going to sell it," I said. She didn't answer right away. She adjusted a throw pillow. "I knew she was talking to someone. I didn't think she'd go through with it so fast." Amanda had this incredible ability to say things that sounded reasonable until you sat with them for 5 minutes and realized they were a cocktail of half-truths and exit ramps. That's how she handled everything from career changes to birthday dinners. She never lit the fuse, but somehow the explosion always landed in someone else's lap. That night, she brought up starting her own business again. "You've been out of work for 6 months, she said. "It might be smart if I took the lead for a while." I nodded. "With what money?" She hesitated. "Well, we still have some equity in the Cobra. I mean, technically, if we reinvested what she got for it." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because there was nothing else left to say. She didn't want a partner. She wanted an investor. That's when I realized something important. Amanda didn't care about the Cobra. She didn't even care about me. She cared about momentum, her version of forward, whatever that meant this month. And if that meant sacrificing the last thing I had, that meant anything, well, that was just the cost of doing business. Amanda always thought she was 5 steps ahead. She'd float through life on a cloud of curated ease, linen blouses, minimalist phone cases, and a planner filled with goals like align my energy and launch brand. But beneath it, there was always the scramble. The desperation to look calm while yanking every string in sight. And sometimes in that scramble, she slipped. It was 2 days after the Cobra incident when I found the receipt. Tucked between couch cushions, wedged like it had something to hide, which, as it turns out, it did. It wasn't from a spa. It was from a brokerage service. Classic auto exchange, $15,000 deposit recorded under Amanda Carter. Not Patricia. Not some third-party buyer. Amanda. She hadn't just let her mother sell the car. She had been the one to list it. I stared at the receipt for a long time. Not because I was surprised, but because even after everything, some small, stupid part of me had still wanted to believe she was just clueless. Detached. Spoiled, maybe, but not strategic. But this was strategy. And it explained a lot. Like why she'd insisted I take the dog to the vet that morning even though she'd had the whole day free. Why she suddenly wanted my garage key just in case. Why she kept suggesting we move on from the past. I confronted her that night, calm, direct. "You listed it yourself." She didn't even flinch. Just sighed like I was exhausting her. "Blake, I tried talking to you. You've been so obsessed with that car, like it was going to bring him back. It was holding you back. No apology. No remorse. Just a lecture. You could have talked to me," I said. "I did," she replied. "You just weren't listening. You were too busy playing mechanic to a ghost." That's when I realized the truth. Amanda didn't see what I'd built. She saw what it kept her from building for herself. To her, the Cobra wasn't a symbol of legacy or love. It was real estate. And I was just the guy standing in the way of the next renovation. After that conversation, I didn't say much. Amanda mistook it for surrender. That's the thing about people like her, they think silence means they've won. But really, it just means you've stopped arguing with someone who never planned to hear you in the first place. She walked around the house like everything was fine. A little brighter, even. Like selling my father's car had finally cleared the psychic clutter in her Pinterest-choked mind. Meanwhile, I started documenting. Receipts. Emails. Conversations. Anything with a timestamp. Because one thing I've learned restoring cars is this: when something breaks, you don't panic, you diagram the damage. And what I was seeing, this wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was premeditated. Amanda had signed the consignment form herself, listed the Cobra under joint property, and claimed I'd agreed verbally. She even sent an email to the dealer framing it as part of our shared financial reset. Her words. Our shared reset. I'd reset nothing except my faith in the woman I married. The worst part? The dealer had already started stripping the car. Apparently, someone offered more in parts than the whole. Which is fitting, really. Amanda had always been more interested in what things looked like than what held them together. That night I went for a walk. 2 hours. No destination. Just distance. When I got back, Amanda was waiting. "I don't like the energy in this house," she said, standing in the hallway with her arms crossed like she was about to lead a yoga retreat. "I don't like being stolen from," I replied. She rolled her eyes. "It was a decision, not a theft, right? Because if you rename a robbery an energetic decluttering, it stops being a felony." That's when it hit me. She actually believed it. She believed she was doing us a favor. That because she smiled through it, because she lit a candle after, it didn't count as betrayal. And maybe if I had less backbone, it wouldn't have. But I wasn't her project. I was the guy who'd spent 18 months keeping a promise to a dead man. And I wasn't about to let her burn it all down just to build her brand. Patricia always smiled like she'd just remembered something awful about you she planned to bring up later. She called me sweetheart in that brittle tone that somehow made the word feel like an insult. For months I chalked her behavior up to the usual mother-in-law control freakery, passive digs, judgmental stares, rearranging things she didn't own. But now I saw it clearly. She wasn't a bystander. She was the architect. Amanda hadn't sold the Cobra in spite of her mother. She'd done it with her. I found the proof while cleaning out the glove compartment of Amanda's SUV. One of those flimsy, spiral-bound notebooks Patricia always carried around. Most of it was grocery lists and handwritten affirmations. I release what no longer serves me, but 3 pages in, I hit pay dirt. A checklist written in her neat, bubbly handwriting. Call Vince Ree, Shelby. Confirm Blake's work schedule. Set up garage access, spare key. Amanda, talk to him about letting go emotionally. It was a script. A plan. Step by step. Amanda hadn't just betrayed me, she'd followed her mother's instructions to do it. I took a photo of every page and emailed it to myself. Then I called the lawyer. I wasn't suing for money. I wasn't even suing Amanda. Not yet. But that car wasn't marital property, not legally. It had been titled under my name since before we were married, restored with tools and parts I'd bought myself. And more importantly, sold without my consent. My lawyer, Raymond Klein, old school, no nonsense, called me back the next morning. "She sold it under false representation," he said. "If we can prove she forged ownership or misrepresented joint consent, we can file civilly and potentially involve criminal charges. Especially if the dealer's already stripped it." "I've got a journal entry," I said. "Her mother's. Planning it." There was a pause. Then a dry chuckle. "Well," Raymond said, "that changes everything." Amanda came into the kitchen later and saw the papers spread across the table. "What's all this?" "Documentation," I said without looking up. She smiled tight and rehearsed. "You're not still obsessing over this, are you?" I looked her dead in the eye. "No. I'm just getting started." She blinked, caught off guard by the tone. No apology. No attempt to explain. Just a flicker of discomfort. That's when I knew something else, something worse. She didn't feel guilty. Because in her head, she'd done nothing wrong. Raymond didn't waste time. By the following week, he drafted a cease and desist to the dealer, frozen the funds from the Cobra's sale through a quick court injunction, and submitted documentation showing clear ownership under my name. That notebook? Solid gold. Combined with the registration and dated restoration invoices, it painted a crystal-clear picture. The car wasn't Amanda's to sell, and definitely not Patricia's to orchestrate. Meanwhile, Amanda and Patricia were still playing house like nothing had happened. Patricia had started leaving self-help books on the coffee table. Titles like The Art of Emotional Release and Letting Go of Attachments. I guess she thought if she sprinkled enough psychology jargon around, it'd somehow justify stealing the last piece of my father's memory. Amanda acted like we were going through a phase. She actually said that. A rough patch, she called it one night as she poured herself a glass of overpriced red and settled onto the couch like she hadn't just dismantled my entire sense of trust. Rough patches, I said, usually don't involve civil litigation. She gave a little huff. God, Blake. Always so dramatic. Dramatic. Like I was being petty about the equivalent of burning down my childhood home and calling it a bonfire for growth. 2 days later, I got a call from Vince, the dealer. He sounded nervous. "Look, man. I didn't know she wasn't the legal owner. I'm just trying to run a business." "You've already dismantled it?" "Yeah, most of it. But I've still got the chassis. Some interior." Raymond filed another motion. This time, an emergency stop on any further dismantling or resale of parts, citing fraud and misrepresentation. And once that hit the system, Patricia panicked. She asked Amanda to ask me for a sit-down. One of those classic faux family interventions disguised as a discussion. We can work this out without lawyers, Amanda said. No, I replied. We can't. Because this wasn't about a car anymore. It was about the moment I realized Amanda didn't just allow the betrayal. She needed it. It was convenient. It made space for her. For her projects, her rebrands, her life where I was either useful or invisible. She thought I'd roll over. She didn't realize I'd been documenting things long before the first bolt went missing. The sit-down happened in Patricia's sunroom. Of course it did. Everything in that room was white, the cushions, the rug, the filtered light through those fake plantation shutters. It looked like the set of a high-end hostage negotiation, and that's exactly what it was. Amanda sat on one side, legs crossed like we were there to renegotiate a magazine subscription. Patricia poured tea. Actual tea. As if we were all friends who just had a small misunderstanding about a $300,000 car. Blake, Patricia said, her voice just one tone above a whisper, we feel like this entire situation has gotten out of hand. We. Like she and Amanda were a board of directors and I was the disgruntled employee refusing to align with the mission. I didn't say anything. Just watched her stir her tea and pretend the entire room wasn't on fire. Amanda picked up the baton. We get that the car meant something to you. We do. But we also have to think about what's best for us. For the future. There it was again. We. Not you and me. Just we. Like a team I'd been quietly benched from. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a printed copy of the consignment form with Amanda's signature right there next to the forged checkmark under sole owner authorization. I slid it across the table. Patricia froze. Amanda's lips tightened. You committed fraud, I said quietly. And you dragged your mother into it. Patricia drew in a sharp breath. Now wait just a minute. No, I cut in. You wait. Because I'm done being the quiet one in this house. You sold something you didn't own. You moved behind my back, lied to a business, and tried to make it look like I'd agreed to it. That's not just dishonest. That's illegal. Amanda started to speak, but I was already on my feet. Raymond filed a restraining order on the remaining parts. You'll be getting your own copies. And if either of you attempt to contact the dealer again, you'll be in violation of an active legal motion. Blake, please, Amanda said, finally looking scared. We don't need to go this far. You already did, I said. I'm just following the map you laid out. I left them sitting in that spotless room, drowning in the very calm they'd weaponized for years. And for the first time since the Cobra vanished from that garage, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. Amanda started playing the sympathy card not long after that. Not with me. With mutual friends. Suddenly, I was struggling emotionally. The Cobra was being painted as a midlife fixation I couldn't let go of. She even started dropping phrases like emotional detachment and masculine identity crisis into conversations, language lifted straight from her favorite therapist influencer podcast. I found out through a friend of mine, Eli. Solid guy. Quiet. Loyal. She told Madison you'd been, quote, spiraling since the layoff, he said over coffee. Said the car was a symbol of unresolved grief. Right? Because Amanda never just rewrote the story, she held the pen with a smile and let everyone think I handed it to her. Meanwhile, back at home, she tried a different approach. Let's start fresh, she said one night, unrolling a vision board onto the dining room table like it was a peace offering. We've been stuck in the past, Blake. I want to build something new. Together. The board had all the usual suspects, photos of boutique garages, couples laughing over blueprints, magazine cutouts of a studio space labeled Our Next Chapter. And right in the center? A photo of her standing in front of the Cobra back when it won Best in Show at the Regional Vintage Expo. She'd cropped me out. Literally. Just the car and Amanda arm resting on the hood like she'd built it herself. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just about selling the car. It was about the story she could tell once it was gone. The tale of the woman who helped her husband move forward, who sacrificed for their growth, who reclaimed space, healed trauma, and launched a business from the ashes of his emotional baggage. She was rewriting history and building a brand out of it. This wasn't a betrayal. It was a rebrand. And I was just the outdated subplot she was trying to phase out. A week after the sunroom showdown, Amanda left for a business planning retreat. Translation: a weekend at a lakeside rental with two of her Reiki healing Instagram friends and a bag full of wine disguised as intentions. I stayed behind by choice. The silence was useful. She left her laptop open on the dining table. Not unusual. Amanda wasn't tech-savvy. She assumed complexity meant safety, which is ironic for someone who once confused incognito mode with online therapy. I wasn't snooping. I was verifying. I clicked the browser. Gmail was still logged in. At first, it was the usual clutter, subscription emails, brand collabs she was manifesting, a draft post about what letting go taught me. But then I saw it. A subject line buried deep in the archive. Cobra arrangement update. It was a thread between Amanda and Vince. Started weeks before the sale. 3 weeks before Patricia ever said a word to me about decluttering the garage. Amanda had set the wheels in motion herself. She'd sent photos. A VIN number. A fake bill of sale template with her name listed as co-owner. There were even notes about how to position it emotionally if Blake pushes back. Bullet points. Phrases to use. Help him through the release. He's attached to the car, not the dream. No. I was attached to both. Because they were the same. That car wasn't just paint and chrome. It was the only thing I'd ever finished that felt like home. My father's voice was in every ratchet click. And she'd reduced it to a talking point in a PDF. There was one last line in the email. Let me know once the deposit clears. He won't fight me on it. He never does. She had bet everything on my silence. And for a while, she'd been right. But that line? That was the end of her winning streak. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I saved the email thread. Every attachment, every timestamp. Forwarded it to Raymond. Then I sat back and let Amanda enjoy her lakeside retreat. She posted a photo that night. A crystal glass of rose, toes in the sand, captioned, letting go make space for what's meant to grow. 67 likes in an hour. For comments praising her emotional bravery. None of them knew what she'd actually let go of. None of them knew she'd sold a man's legacy for a caption. The next day, Raymond filed an addendum to our case, updated the fraud claim, included evidence of premeditated misrepresentation, and sent a formal notification to Amanda's email address. Legal language. Official tone. Just enough to make sure she saw it before dessert. She texted me 20 minutes later. Can we please talk before you do something stupid? I didn't answer, because by now I understood something important. Amanda didn't react to pain. She reacted to consequences. She got home Sunday night. No hug. No small talk. Just cold air and clenched silence. I saw the email, she finally said. I nodded. I figured. You're blowing this way out of proportion. That was her opening argument. This was about us, she added, like the word meant anything anymore. Our future. Your attachment to that car, it was getting unhealthy. Even my therapist said. Your therapist doesn't have a VIN number on my registration, I interrupted. The car wasn't yours. You lied. You forged. You profited. Her face twisted, half offense, half panic. You want to destroy our marriage over this? No, I said. You already did that. I'm just making sure you don't get to pretend otherwise. She scoffed and walked out of the room. Probably to post about boundaries and healing. Maybe light a sage stick. Meanwhile, I stayed at the table, staring at the legal packet Raymond had sent over. My name on every page. A list of facts that were finally catching up with Amanda's fiction. She thought I'd break. Thought I'd give in. Thought I'd let it go. But that's the thing about people like her. They always underestimate the man who's been quiet too long. The hearing wasn't dramatic. These things rarely are. Just a gray room, a few too many folders, and the quiet hum of paperwork doing what fists never could. Amanda showed up late. Dressed like grief, a black turtleneck, oversized sunglasses, the whole performance. Patricia didn't come. Probably too busy drafting a new chapter in her wellness memoir, How I Emotionally Supported My Daughter While Committing a Felony. Raymond handled most of it. Calm, surgical, precise. He laid out the timeline, the forged documentation, the pre-sale email trail, the fake co-ownership claim. Then came the best part. The dealer showed up. Vince. Same guy who'd sold the Cobra for parts. He testified under oath that Amanda had claimed to be the sole owner, and when asked for proof, she'd provided a copy of a joint title that turned out to be completely fabricated. Amanda tried to spin it. Said it was a misunderstanding. That she thought I'd emotionally released the vehicle. Judge didn't even blink. The ruling came down fast. Amanda was ordered to return the sale funds in full. The remaining Cobra parts, what was left of them, were to be released back into my custody immediately. She was also barred from claiming any legal right to the vehicle going forward. It wasn't just a win. It was documentation, recognition, proof that I wasn't crazy, petty, or stuck in the past. I was just the one person in the room who hadn't been lying. After the ruling, Amanda followed me into the hallway. You really think this changes anything? She asked. I turned. No, I said. You did. She stared at me, waiting for something else. A fight. A plea. A confession of guilt I was never going to give. But I just walked past her, papers in hand, jaw set, back straight. Because you don't argue with someone who sold your father's memory for a weekend retreat. You move forward. And you leave them exactly where they decided to stand, on the wrong side of the story. After the hearing, I started picking up what was left of the Cobra. Literally. The dealer kept his word: chassis, seats, what was left of the dash, boxed up like a funeral kit. He apologized again, said he didn't want to get dragged into a domestic situation. I told him not to worry. This wasn't domestic. This was demolition. Amanda just wore better shoes. Back home, I moved everything into a new shop space. A friend of mine had a spare bay, clean, quiet, no yoga mats on the floor. I didn't say much to Amanda. She hadn't moved out, but we were talking in surface-level syllables at that point. Then one night, I stayed late at the shop, sorting parts by serial numbers, because that's how you rebuild something right. You start at the bottom, piece by piece. And in one of the boxes, I found it. The dash panel. My father's original. Tucked behind it, a folded invoice from a restoration supply vendor. Dated 6 weeks before the Cobra was sold. Paid in full. And not by Amanda. By Patricia. That didn't make sense until I looked closer. Amanda's email address was listed in the contact field. I cross-referenced the order number with the vendor the next day. Spoke to a rep. She remembered Amanda. Said she'd called asking how to make the car more showroom ready before a sale. Before she pretended it was Patricia's idea. Before she said she was shocked the car was gone. Before she told me to let go of the past. Amanda had planned the sale from the start. Patricia helped. But Amanda was the one driving. The Cobra wasn't collateral damage. It was the target. I stood in that shop, invoice in hand, and something went quiet inside me. Not rage. Not sadness. Just this cold, solid clarity. She didn't just betray me. She betrayed my father. And that's the kind of thing you don't come back from. Amanda moved out 3 weeks after the invoice. No dramatic goodbye. No closure conversation. Just a text that said, staying with my mom for a bit. I think we both need space. She left behind her essential oil diffuser and 2 drawers full of branded loungewear. I didn't respond. She wanted me to chase. To ask if we could talk, to bargain with the broken pieces like she hadn't spent months hammering at them herself. But I was done fixing things that didn't want to be whole. Instead, I stayed in the shop. Quiet days. Long nights. Just me, the smell of oil and steel, and whatever fragments of the Cobra I could salvage. The seat stitching was still intact. The frame needed work, but the soul of it, the part that mattered, had survived. Kind of like me. People asked why I didn't walk away from it all. Why I didn't sell what was left and start fresh. But that car wasn't just a project. It was a promise. One Amanda didn't break, I kept it. Even when she stripped it down, even when she sold it out from under me, even when she lied to my face and smiled while doing it. Because some things matter more than profit. More than comfort. More than staying married to someone who thinks partnership means a split-screen life built around her goals. I filed for divorce a month later. No fanfare. Just clean paperwork and a notarized reminder that loyalty means nothing to someone who sees love as leverage. And that was the last time I saw Amanda. No final scene. No apology. Just the sound of a life I didn't recognize finally going quiet. That's when I named the business. Blake Vintage Restorations. It's small, but it's mine. And in the corner of the workshop, up on a lift where the light catches the worn paint just right, sits what's left of the Cobra. Not as a monument to what she took, but as proof of what she couldn't destroy. The divorce was nearly finalized when Raymond called and said, "You're gonna want to sit down for this." Turns out Amanda had made one last move behind the scenes. Before the lawsuit, before the hearing, even before the reset vision board, she'd floated a quiet deal with Vince, the dealer. Not for the Cobra. For the brand. She'd registered a business name, Cobra and Sage. An LLC. Filed under Amanda Carter. She'd already built a logo. A minimalist snake wrapped around a wrench. The tagline? Restoring legacy through feminine vision. She was planning to monetize the story. My story. Package it as a boutique lifestyle brand. Vintage-inspired restoration with emotional intention. Think candles, car-scented linen sprays, blog posts about letting go of masculine attachments to inherited objects. It wasn't just betrayal. It was licensing. But here's the kicker. She wasn't doing it alone. The filing showed a second name attached. Patricia Carter-Rainey. Her mother. Amanda's betrayal hadn't been an act of desperation. It was a business strategy. And Patricia? She wasn't the puppet master. She was a partner. They were going to sell grief as a lifestyle. Turn my father's memory into content. Except now, their business name is locked in a legal dispute. The trademark's been challenged. Their dealer connection is burned. And thanks to that lovely little cease and desist from Raymond, every email Amanda ever sent about Cobra and Sage is now part of public record. And me? I never sent Amanda a final message. No, I know what you did. No, I hope you learned something. Because people like her don't learn. They pivot. But this time, there's nothing left to pivot to. I built something with my hands. She built something out of hashtags and borrowed grief. Only one of those things is still standing. And I'm not just rebuilding the Cobra. I'm rebuilding the man she thought she could dismantle, and that's the one thing she'll never own, brand, or sell. Not for any price.